I buried my wife on a Tuesday. By Friday, my son was already asking what parts of my life were still mine. It didn't start with yelling or threats. It started with paperwork. If you've ever had family turn into strangers over money, tell me about it in the comments. Rain fell without pause as the service wrapped up at Desert Hills. Chairs were already being folded while the officiant stepped away, his role finished. People moved with purpose, not hesitation. A few murmured condolences landed and passed. No one lingered. My wife's name had just been spoken for the last time in a formal setting, and that was it. Daniel arrived after everything essential was done. He didn't come toward me. He stopped near the funeral director, spoke briefly, nodded, checked his phone. His jacket was dry. That detail stood out more than it should have. When he finally approached, there was no greeting. No pause. "We need to talk about the house soon," he said. The words landed clean like something rehearsed. "This isn't the place" came back immediately. There was no room for negotiation in that sentence. He didn't lower his voice. "I know, but timing matters. Mom wanted things handled quickly. A few heads turned, not toward us exactly, but close enough. That conversation won't happen here," was all I said. Daniel exhaled through his nose and shifted his weight. "I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just saying what she told me." Before a response could form, my sister-in-law stepped closer, hands clasped too tightly. "Is there a will?" she asked. Casual tone, careful wording, like asking about the weather. Daniel answered before I could. "There are documents. We're sorting them out." That was news. I turned away and walked toward the parking lot. Gravel crunched under my shoes. Behind me, Daniel kept talking, voice following. "We can sit down tomorrow, or even tonight. There's no reason to wait." Keys came out of my pocket. The car unlocked with a dull click. "I'll be in touch," I said, and closed the door. The drive home was short, too short for the phone to stop buzzing. Calls went unanswered. A text followed. "Daniel. We really shouldn't delay. I already spoke to someone." At the house, the answering machine light blinked. Another message. I didn't play it. Later, a voicemail came through anyway, his voice again more controlled. I set up a meeting with a notary, just to get clarity. "It's Monday morning." I sent the details. Dinner stayed untouched. Paperwork from the week sat where it had been left, stacked without order. Another text arrived, this time with an attachment. Then the email came through. Subject line: appointment confirmation. The message was brief. Time, address, name of the notary public. My name listed as attending. Daniel's included beneath it. No question mark anywhere. The knock came before the coffee finished brewing. Daniel stood on the porch with Aunt Linda beside him. She held a folder against her chest, edges bent from copying. Neither waited to be invited. They stepped in as soon as the door opened. "We won't take long," Linda said. "This is just paperwork." Daniel laid the pages across the dining table, smoothing them with his palm. "Copies," he added. "So you don't have to worry." I glanced at the top sheet. Property description. My address, a signature line already highlighted. "I'll review these first," I said. Daniel's jaw tightened. "There's nothing to review. It's standard. Then waiting won't hurt." He leaned forward, voice dropping. "You always do this. Stall. Make things harder than they need to be." Linda shifted closer, trying to soften the moment. "Your father's been through a lot," she said to him, then turned to me. "He just wants closure." Daniel didn't look away. "I lived here because you let me," he said. "Because I needed stability. Because you said family mattered." "That doesn't change," I said. "Signing without reading does." His hand struck the table, not hard enough to draw attention, just enough to make the point. "Mom trusted me." "That's not what we're discussing." Linda cleared her throat. Maybe he just needs time. Daniel gathered the papers, slower now. Time costs money, he said. And lawyers. They left without another word. The door closed. The coffee burned on the counter. At the warehouse, the morning briefing ran long. Schedules shifted. A shipment was late. Pallets moved, then moved again. During a lull, my manager pulled me aside near the loading bay. "Everything okay at home?" he asked. "Getting there." He nodded, eyes scanning the floor. "Personal stuff has a way of bleeding into work," he said. "If there's a dispute, best to resolve it quickly. I'll keep that in mind." He patted my shoulder and walked off. The message didn't need repeating. By mid-afternoon, a voicemail came through from Daniel. No anger this time. Controlled. Polite. Just checking in. The notary has limited availability. I didn't call back. Instead, the car headed toward the hospital where my wife had spent her last weeks. The parking structure was nearly empty. A security guard waved me through after checking ID. Records sat behind a glass window. A clerk took the request form, typed, frowned. There were updates, she said. Recent ones. From when within the last month. She slid a printout across. Beneficiary change. Pending. My name still listed but crossed through once initialed in the margin. Not by me. Who submitted this? She checked the screen. Your son. I asked for copies. She made them stamped and added a note about incomplete processing. Outside, the phone rang again. Daniel. It went to voicemail. The county office closed later than expected. Fluorescent lights hummed over a waiting area filled with people clutching envelopes. When my turn came, a woman with dark hair and a calm voice introduced herself. Rosa Martinez, she said. What can I help with? The documents went on the counter. Property records, insurance forms, dates circled. Rosa studied them without commentary, typing notes as she went. These adjustments were attempted, she said. Not finalized. Attempted by someone without authority. She nodded. That matters. But timing matters more. What happens now depends on what else exists, such as deeds, trusts, any previous amendments. She slid a checklist across. If there are gaps, someone could try to fill them. Can that be stopped temporarily? How by reviewing everything before signatures make it permanent? She didn't raise her voice, didn't offer sympathy. Families assume intention carries weight, she said. Paper carries more. A man at the next window argued about a fee. Rosa waited until he finished, then returned her attention to me. If you want clarity, she said, start with the house. The clerk at the Maricopa County Records Office slid the folder across the counter and pointed to a tab marked Addendum. This page was attached later, she said. Not part of the original filing. The paper felt thinner than the rest. The date sat in the corner 3 weeks before my wife lost the ability to sign anything on her own. The signature at the bottom matched her name, but not her hand. That doesn't line up, I said. The clerk leaned closer, careful with her tone. The submission came from your son. He listed himself as acting under family authorization. Was anything verified? Only what was required for intake, she said. Final review hadn't happened yet. A stamp near the edge confirmed it. Pending. Not approved. Still real enough to cause damage. My phone buzzed on the counter. Daniel again. I let it ring. Another clerk returned with a second file. Property history, ownership timeline, everything clean until the addendum. One attempt, no follow-up yet. You're catching this early, she said. That helps. How early is early before signatures make it permanent? The phone buzzed again, then again. Outside, the sun pressed down harder than expected. The car door closed, sealing off the noise of the street. Daniel's name filled the screen. I answered this time. You need to stop delaying, he said. No greeting. This is going to get messy. I'm reviewing records. There's nothing to review. You're creating problems that don't exist. Then waiting won't change anything. His voice sharpened. Lawyers get involved when people refuse to cooperate. I'm not refusing. I'm checking. A pause followed, brief but telling. If you sign now, he said, we avoid all of that. The line went dead. Rosa sat at a corner table of the roadside diner, a cup of coffee untouched in front of her. Papers were spread between us, held down by a salt shaker. This addendum, she said, tapping the page, never cleared. But it's in the system. Yes. Which means it left a trail. What happens if I sign what he sent? She didn't hesitate. You'd legitimize the attempt. Everything becomes retroactive. And if I don't, then it stays an attempt. A waitress passed by, refilling water glasses without asking. Rosa gathered the papers into a neat stack. He moved fast, she said. But not fast enough. Another call came through. Daniel again. Declined. You're not talking to him, she said. Not yet. That's smart. Why? Because he's assuming you don't know what you're looking at. Outside the diner, my phone lit up with notifications. A message from my sister-in-law. A cousin asking if things were being handled fairly. Someone else sent a screenshot. Daniel had posted a photo of the house online. No caption, just a line beneath it. Some parents forget when it's time to let go. I didn't respond. Back at the county office, the request form took longer than expected. Temporary freeze, limited scope. The clerk explained the process twice. This doesn't accuse anyone, she said. It just pauses changes. Good. She stamped the form and slid it back. You'll be notified if there's a challenge. The phone buzzed before I reached the car. Daniel, what are you doing? No reply. Another message followed. Daniel, my lawyer says this is unnecessary. A third came in before the engine turned over. Daniel, you're making yourself look bad. I drove home without answering. A neighbor waved from across the street. I nodded back. The mailbox held a single envelope. Legal letterhead. Not addressed to me, but my name appeared in the subject line. That evening, the answering machine picked up while I sorted the mail. This is Daniel, his voice said. I've scheduled a consultation. They'll reach out. A pause. Then softer. You don't have to do this alone. The doorbell rang just after noon. Daniel stood there with a man in a gray suit leather folder tucked under his arm. No warning call, no text. Daniel didn't wait for an invitation. This won't take long, he said, already stepping forward. This is Mr. Klein. The man extended a hand. I represent Daniel Harris, he said. May we come in? The living room still smelled faintly of cardboard boxes and unopened mail. Chairs were moved without asking. The folder landed on the coffee table, opened with care. We're here to clarify intent, Klein said. Specifically, your wife's. Daniel leaned back, arms crossed. She wanted stability, he said. For the family. For the future. What future, I asked. The next generation, Klein answered smoothly. Continuity matters. A document slid across the table. Not the same one as before. New letterhead. New language. This outlines a proposed transfer, Klein said. Nothing finalized. Yet. I didn't agree to this meeting. Daniel shrugged. You needed to hear it. My phone buzzed on the side table. A bank alert. Another followed seconds later. Then a third. Klein noticed the distraction. Accounts tied to disputed assets are often paused, he said. Standard procedure. How many, I asked. Several, he said, until matters are resolved. Daniel watched my face closely. This doesn't have to be difficult, he said. Sign and things go back to normal. Another buzz. Insurance provider this time. Verification in progress. Klein continued. If cooperation isn't possible, litigation becomes the next step. That process can take years. Costs accumulate. Relationships suffer. You're threatening me, I said. I'm outlining outcomes. Daniel leaned forward. Mom didn't want you alone in this house, he said. She told me that, before she got sick. That's not true. You weren't there for those conversations. Klein raised a hand slightly as if to slow things down. We're not here to argue memory, he said. We're here to resolve ownership. My phone vibrated again, a message from Rosa. Freeze is temporary. He's pushing filings fast. The meeting ended without signatures. Klein packed his folder, nodded once, and left a business card on the table. Consider your options, he said. Time isn't neutral. Daniel stayed behind. You think you're protecting something, he said. You're just dragging it out. The door closed behind him without another word. At the bank, the teller spoke in a practiced tone. Yes, sir. The review is active. No, I can't access that amount right now. Yes, it's related to a dispute. She slid a pamphlet across the counter and smiled as if that helped. Back home, a certified envelope waited at the door. Official seal. County notice. Property dispute recorded. The language was clinical. Dates, parcel number, parties involved. My name. Daniel's beneath it. The phone rang. Rosa again. They logged it, she said. That escalates things. What does that change? Now it's visible. To lenders. To insurers. So silence isn't helping. No, she said. It's buying him time. I thanked her and hung up. The house felt smaller with the paperwork spread across the table. Each page carried weight. None offered relief. The answering machine clicked on. Michael, it's Linda, my sister-in-law said. People are talking. You should think about compromise. The message ended. Another followed. A cousin. Then a neighbor asking if everything was all right. That evening, a courier knocked. Another envelope. This one from Klein's firm. Formal notice of intent to pursue further action if cooperation wasn't forthcoming. I set it down beside the county notice. The phone buzzed again. Daniel. This time I didn't let it go to voicemail. What do you want? I asked. To finish this, he said. Before it gets worse. It already has. Only because you won't let go. The law office sat between a tax service and a nail salon. No sign out front suggested drama. A receptionist took my name and handed over a clipboard without comment. The attorney Mark Feldman didn't waste time. I've reviewed what you sent, he said, tapping the folder. There's exposure here. He laid out the sequence on a legal pad. Dates, filings, attempts, each item connected to a name. You delegated authority, he said, repeatedly. That's not a crime, but it creates assumptions. I trusted family. That's not a defense. He slid another page forward. Your son filed supplemental statements this morning. Claimed verbal authorization. Claims a relative will confirm. Who Aunt Linda? The name landed harder than expected. She wasn't there, I said. She says she was. The courthouse hallway filled with people waiting for their own reasons. Lawyers spoke in short bursts. Phones rang and stopped. A clerk passed by with a cart of files. Mark leaned closer. If this drags on, costs rise fast, he said. Your employer will notice. Banks already have. Reputation becomes collateral. What are my options? Settle now. Limited concession. Or contest everything. And the risk truth comes out, he said. So do mistakes. Paper rustled as he flipped through older documents. You signed this without reading, he said. And this. And this. Each page carried my name. Different years, same pattern. I didn't think you assumed restraint would be returned, he said. It usually isn't. Daniel walked past the hallway entrance with his lawyer. No greeting, just a glance, then a turn toward the elevators. Aunt Linda followed, clutching her purse. Mark closed the folder. court doesn't reward patience, he said. It responds to evidence. A clerk announced a delay, more waiting. Mark's phone buzzed. He read the message, then turned the screen toward me. They're pushing for expedited review. Can they do that? They can try. I nodded once. What do you need from me, all of it? He said. Every record, every email, even the ones you think protect someone. That was the moment the pattern broke. The stack of small decisions, the habit of letting things pass. Each choice had felt minor. Together they built this hallway. A text came through from Daniel. Daniel, you don't have to burn everything down. No reply went back. Aunt Linda approached, voice lowered. You're hurting him, she said. He's grieving too. Mark stood. Any communication should go through counsel, he said. She backed away, offended. Mark gathered his papers. If you want to proceed, he said, we file a comprehensive response. No selective memory. At the copy center across the street, the machine jammed twice. Staples ran out. Someone apologized for the wait. I watched pages slide through the scanner. Years of decisions reduced to PDFs. Back at the office, Mark sorted files into piles. This opens other questions, he said. Insurance, beneficiaries, timing. Ask them, I said. Once we do, there's no narrowing the scope. That's fine. He paused. You're sure? Yes. The hallway outside filled again as the afternoon calendar resumed. Daniel's lawyer passed by, expression unreadable. Mark made a call. We're submitting full disclosure, he said into the phone. Effective today. He ended the call and handed me a pen. Sign here. Authorizing access. The signature went down clean. No hesitation left to spend. Outside, a notification buzzed. Another account hold, another review, each alert stacked onto the last. Mark watched me check the screen. This part gets worse before it gets clearer, he said. I know. A message arrived from Rosa. Once everything's open, timelines speak louder than stories. I forwarded it to Mark. He nodded. Smart ally. The records room at the insurance office ran on numbers and patience. A clerk rolled a cart forward and set a stack of folders between us. Each one carried a barcode, a date, and a status stamp. These were flagged, she said. Incomplete submissions. Mark stood beside me, scanning the labels. Who initiated the changes, he asked. The clerk checked her screen. Daniel Harris, she said. Multiple attempts. Pages turned. Forms half-filled. Signature lines left blank. Others signed with handwriting that drifted uneven and rushed. These were submitted while your wife was still alive, the clerk said. But near the end. One form showed a beneficiary change request. My name struck through once. Daniel's typed beneath it. Another page had been returned with a note clipped to the top. Missing valid signature. Resubmit. Mark tapped the margin. No notarization, he said. No witness. The clerk nodded. They didn't pass review. Were they rejected? I asked. Returned, she said. Not denied. There's a difference. What happens now? She looked to Mark. With formal review open, he said these become part of the record. The next stop sat across town, a small office I recognized too well. The notary remembered me after a moment. You came by last year, she said. With your wife. Yes. She pulled a logbook from a drawer and flipped to a page marked with a yellow tab. He came alone. Later, she said. Your son. Mark leaned forward. What did he ask for? To notarize documents, she said. I refused. Why she wasn't present? The notary said, and the power of attorney didn't cover changes of that scope. She slid a photocopy across the desk. Daniel's name appeared on the request line. My wife's signature space remained empty. He said he'd bring her next time she said. He didn't. The phone rang before we left the office. Mark answered and stepped aside. That was their counsel, he said when he returned. They're recalibrating. What does that mean? Less certainty. More distance. Back at the insurance office, a supervisor joined us. The tone shifted. Less polite, more procedural. These filings raise concerns, she said. We need explanations. Daniel was called in that afternoon. Mark and I waited while he sat across from a compliance officer, hands folded, jaw tight. I was helping my mother, Daniel said. She wanted it done. Do you have documentation of that intent? The officer asked. No, he said. She told me. Who was present? He paused. No one. The officer made a note. Mark didn't interrupt. Neither did I. When Daniel's lawyer arrived, his confidence had thinned. We acknowledge irregularities, the lawyer said. But no harm occurred. The officer closed the folder. Attempts matter, she said. Outcome doesn't erase process. Outside, Daniel caught up to us in the parking lot. You're really doing this, he said. We're letting the review continue, Mark said. Daniel turned to me. You could stop it by pretending none of this happened. You know what I mean? There isn't a final request, Mark said. Just fragments. Daniel laughed once, sharp and brief. You're acting like I committed a crime. No one said that, Mark replied. Yet. A notification arrived before we reached the car. The insurance review had been elevated. Timeline extended. Parties notified. This changes leverage, Mark said. At the county office later that day, the same clerk from before met us at the counter. The property addendum is now under formal examination, she said. Linked filings included. Meaning, Mark asked. Insurance, notary attempts, everything connects. A cousin texted while we waited. Cousin. Is it true you're trying to cut Daniel out? No response went back. Daniel's lawyer sent an email an hour later. Given recent developments, we're reassessing our position. Mark forwarded it to me with a single line. They're stepping back. The relief never arrived. Just more steps, more forms, more calls. At home, the answering machine blinked. A message from Daniel, this time voice flat. They're saying I could be flagged for misrepresentation. He stopped, then continued. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I listened without picking up. Mark called shortly after. The file's been transferred, he said. Official review panel. What does that mean? No shortcuts, no quiet resolutions, and the risk. If they find intent, he said, it follows him. I'm not asking for punishment, I said. I know, he said. You're asking for accuracy. That night, paperwork stayed spread across the table. Dates lined up where stories didn't. Attempt stopped just short of completion. No final wish. No signature that held. The phone buzzed again. Rosa this time. Once it's under review, no one controls the pace, I typed back. Understood. The house settled into routine sounds. Dishwasher running. Mail stacked near the door. Another email arrived as the screen dimmed. Subject notice of formal examination. I opened it and scrolled, then forwarded it to Mark without comment. The courtroom filled in stages. Lawyers first, then clerks, then people who looked like they had rearranged work schedules to be there. Mark took a seat beside me and set the folders on the table in a clean stack. Daniel arrived with his attorney a few minutes later and chose a chair across the aisle. No nods, no gestures. The clerk called the case. Everyone stood, then sat. Mark began with the timeline. Not a speech, a sequence. Exhibit A, he said, sliding a document forward. Original deed, recorded 15 years ago. Dates followed. Each page had a stamp. Each stamp matched a filing log. Exhibit B, he continued. Addendum submitted 3 weeks before incapacity. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't look at Daniel. The clerk marked the entry. The judge leaned forward. Proceed. Mark placed the insurance filings next to the property records. These were attempted changes, he said. Returned, not approved. Daniel's attorney shifted in his chair. Objection, he said. Speculation. Withdrawn, Mark replied calmly. These are intake notes. The judge nodded. Overruled. The next document showed the notary log. Dates aligned. Signatures didn't. Daniel spoke up. My mother told me what she wanted. Mark didn't react. He flipped to the next page. Exhibit D notary refusal, he said, because the principal was absent. The judge looked at Daniel. Were you present when these documents were executed? She asked. Daniel hesitated. Yes, he said. No. I mean, his attorney put a hand on his arm, clarify, the judge said. I was acting on her behalf, Daniel said. She asked me to handle it. Do you have written authorization? The judge asked. No. The room stayed still. The clerk typed. Aunt Linda sat behind Daniel, hands folded. Mark stood and addressed the bench. The witness previously stated she was present for a verbal authorization, he said. We have an affidavit of withdrawal. He handed it over. Aunt Linda stood. I misunderstood, she said. I wasn't there. Daniel turned around. You said? She shook her head and sat. The judge reviewed the affidavit and set it aside. Continue. Mark moved to the last section. These actions, he said, were not isolated. They followed a pattern of partial filings that stopped short of approval. Daniel's attorney cleared his throat. My client did not benefit. Benefit isn't required, Mark said. Attempt establishes reach. The judge asked a few questions. Dates, names, process. Daniel answered some. Others he deferred. At no point did I speak. The clerk read the findings. Ownership remains with Michael Harris for the duration of his life, she said. No valid transfer recorded. She paused. The court notes evidence of boundary overreach in attempted filings. Daniel's attorney whispered something. Daniel stared straight ahead. The judge added, no criminal determination is made at this time. She struck the gavel once. That concludes this matter. People stood. Papers were gathered. The clerk moved on to the next case. In the hallway, Daniel's attorney spoke first. We'll need time to review the implications, he said. Mark nodded. Understood. Daniel lingered. This didn't have to happen, he said. Mark stepped between us. All communication goes through counsel, he said. Daniel walked away without another word. At the clerk's window, a notice was printed and slid across the counter. Effective immediately, the clerk said. Access revoked. Mark checked the wording and folded the page. Clear, he said. A text came in from Rosa. That's the pivot point. Outside, the phone buzzed again. A bank confirmation. Holds lifted. Access restored. Mark looked over. Administrative cleanup takes time, he said. But direction is set. Back at the office, he made a call. Yes, he said. Proceed to the next phase. He hung up and turned to me. Aftermath, he said. Notifications, records, finalization. Daniel's name appeared on the screen again. The call went unanswered. A message followed. Daniel. So that's it. No reply went back. Mark slid a folder across the desk. Read when you're ready, he said. Nothing urgent. The final signatures happened in a conference room that smelled faintly of toner and old coffee. Mark slid the documents across the table one section at a time, pausing only to confirm names and dates. This revokes prior authorizations, he said. All of them. The pen felt lighter than it should have. Each signature landed without ceremony. Another page followed. This removes Daniel from any representative role, Mark said. Financial, medical, or otherwise. I signed again. And this records the findings, he continued. No criminal referral per your instruction, but the irregularities remain logged. That's fine, I said. He looked up once, checking for hesitation. None came. When it was done, Mark stacked the papers and handed me a thin folder. "You'll get copies by mail," he said. "Digital access is already updated." Outside, the afternoon moved at its usual pace. Cars passed. Someone argued with a parking meter. Phoenix didn't register the shift. At the next office, a separate set of documents waited. Different header. Different purpose. "This establishes the scholarship fund," the administrator said. "Independent oversight. No family appointments." She explained the terms. "Eligibility criteria. Annual review. Clear boundaries. Your name will appear as the initial donor," she said. "Nothing else." "That works." The confirmation email arrived before I reached the car. At the warehouse the following week, schedules resumed their old rhythm. Trucks came in late. Someone called in sick. A supervisor asked if overtime could be approved. "Within limits," I said. No one mentioned court. No one asked questions. The work stayed what it had always been. Measurable, contained, finished when finished. A message from Daniel's attorney came through midweek. Per prior notice, all contact should proceed through counsel. No reply followed. Another email arrived from a financial institution confirming updates. Account access clarified. Restrictions lifted. One line near the bottom noted prior irregular activity resolved, but retained for record. I closed the message and moved on. The house settled back into routine. Mail arrived. Bills got paid. A repairman fixed a leaky valve under the sink and left a receipt on the counter. A voicemail appeared late one evening. "Daniel's number." I listened once. "This is my lawyer's number," he said. "If you need to reach me." The message ended. No questions asked. No apology offered. I didn't save the number. At the end of the month, Mark called to confirm completion. That's everything he said. No further actions pending. "Thank you. If you need anything down the line, I'll reach out." The call ended. A short trip came together without planning. 2 days off approved. A rental booked. No itinerary beyond the first night. The drive out of Phoenix took longer than expected. Traffic stalled near the outskirts, then cleared. Gas station coffee tasted the same as everywhere else. At a rest stop, the phone buzzed once more. A notification from the county system confirming final record closure. I swiped it away and walked toward the vending machines. Later that evening, a message arrived from Rosa. "Everything's sealed now. Take care of yourself," I typed back. "Appreciated." The motel room had clean sheets and a working heater. I set the bag down and turned on the television without sound. News scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Nothing relevant. Dinner came from a nearby place recommended by the clerk. I ate half and saved the rest. Before sleeping, the phone lit up again. This time it was an automated alert confirming the first transfer into the scholarship account. No response needed. In the morning, I checked out early. The road stretched ahead, unremarkable and open. A sign pointed toward a state park I hadn't visited before. I slowed, signaled, and turned.